very much, David. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for taking your time and coming here tonight. As some of you know, budget of Kosovo is around €1.5 billion, and remittances that we get from our diaspora are officially around €600 million, and unofficially around €1 billion. So I don't think that you have any other country where the ratio between remittances from diaspora and the budget of the state is 2 to 3. There are other nations whose diaspora send more money than ours, but not within this ratio. However, these remittances in Kosovo did soften a bit poverty, but did not increase unemployment. Trade deficit of Kosovo is 35.1% of GDP, so it's higher than 1/3 of the GDP. And GDP per capita in Kosovo is 9 times less than the average in EU. In the so-called golden age of former Yugoslavia, in the year 1979, the standard of living in Kosovo was 1/9 of that in Slovenia. Now, 30-something years after, the average of EU is 9 times higher than GDP per capita in Kosovo. Foreign direct investments have fallen in the last year at their lowest level since the year 2005, at 4.3% of GDP. Half of it goes to real estate and construction sector, 12% in financial services, and only 13% are channeled into manufacturing production. There have been 20% increase of new registered businesses in Kosovo, but on the other hand, 16.7% more businesses were closed. So in a way, in the economic situation we have there, it's economically easier to spring, but also it is even easier to die out. This is thanks to the doctrine of small and medium enterprises, which arrived more or less at the same time with liberation of Kosovo. And we have been told that big corporations, industrial complex, they belong to the past, so we shall focus now on small and medium enterprises. The problem with small and medium enterprises is that they are usually small and very rarely medium, and very soon they become micro enterprises. 74% of the assets in the financial sector belongs to the banks, and 19.5% to the pensionist trust funds. 70% of the bank assets are managed by 3 biggest banks out of 9 altogether, and 90% in foreign ownership. 37.8% of youth who are employed have no contracts of work without contracts, and 30,000 youngsters, they enter the job market without getting any jobs every year. Unemployment is long-term and at the same time absolute, because vast majority of the unemployed would work anything. Besides the massacres and the genocide which killed 12,000 civilians in the last war in Kosovo, Serbia also destroyed 120,000 houses, killed 60% of livestock, and also burned or took to Serbia majority of the tractors. And this is key to understand the economic dependency of Kosovo from Serbia even 14 years after liberation. 45% of the population, they live with less than $2 per day. Another 18% live with less than $1 per day. which means that around 300,000 people are hungry on a daily basis, because with less than $1 per day, you cannot get 2,100 calories which are needed for a normal human body. And 80% of people of Kosovo live with less than $5 per day. So basically, we do not have middle class there. The average land for farmers is from 0.15 to 0.18 hectares, which is less than half of the average of EU. And we spent electric energy 9 times more for is being consumed by the households than by industry. An entire budget of Kosovo lays outside of Kosovo. 800 million euros of pensionist trust fund and 600 million euros of privatization fund. Only 2.5% of the pensionist trust fund is invested inside Kosovo. So we are a very poor country, but at the top of this, our money is outside. And we have this freedom of capital, but not freedom of the movement for the people. I have a diplomatic passport as member of parliament, but I can go without visa only in 5 countries: Albania, Montenegro, Macedonia, Turkey, and Haiti. So we cannot go where our money is. So our money leaves the country very fast, but we cannot go where the money is. I think that the socio-economic situation of a country has nothing to do with the history of the people, has nothing to do with the culture of the society, and neither with the richness or geology of the territory, but has to do with the economic model. And economic model in Kosovo is wrong. It's this neoliberalism where they say that we shall privatize everything very fast, very cheap, and then development and well-being will come up naturally. Of course, it didn't happen. The budget for the Ministry of Infrastructure is 7 times higher than the budget for the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, and Rural Development. 3 ministries that would make developmental state, that I will talk later on about: Ministry of Economic Development, Ministry of Agriculture, and Ministry of Trade and Industry, together have only 4.3% of the budget of the state. Usually they increase a bit the salaries and the expenses, the internal debt, but the subvention of the publicly owned enterprise has fallen for 30%. For highways, budget of Kosovo dedicates 60 times more than for Trepča, which is the mining complex mainly in the northern part of Kosovo, in Mitrovica surrounding. The privatization agency of Kosovo, up to now, privatized around 400 enterprises, mainly socially owned enterprises. Out of them, they created 700 new enterprises and liquidated 360 assets. From the fund which was gathered from the process of privatization is close to 600 million euros, and from the liquidation, 72 million. 20% is supposed to belong to the workers, but only 77 million euros have been distributed so far to them. Of course, there are other governments in the world that they sell publicly owned enterprises. Some of them in order to increase the budget without increasing taxes. But in Kosovo, this is not the case, because the money is being locked in the privatization fund, where also Serbia is claiming that it belongs to them as well. The privatization in Kosovo turned capital into property and not the other way around. in the name of transition from socialism to capitalism, they privatized socially owned enterprises. But they continued also with the publicly owned enterprises, so they did not stop there. Today in Kosovo we have the freedom to choose the product of capitalism, what kind of wine or water we want, but not to choose the type of capitalism. Maybe we want German capitalism, maybe Scandinavian, maybe Anglo-Saxon, maybe French, maybe Singapore kind of, or South Korean kind of capitalism. But this is not part of debate, neither public debate nor parliamentarian debate. Privatization actually has never been a concept, but rather a principle or a norm that should be fulfilled without allowing to ask why to privatize, when to privatize, how much to privatize, and to whom to sell. The key contradiction is, in this context, the one between the plan and principle. We're not allowed to have any kind of plan or a vision for economic development. You're just simply supposed to install the principle and waiting for the consequence of the principle being good for us, as we have been told. One of the key arguments how the privatization has been justified is fight over corruption. Of course, there is huge corruption in publicly owned enterprises, but if there is corruption in publicly owned enterprises, what we believe should be done is to buy new management and not to sell the assets. And a government which is tolerating corruption in publicly owned enterprises should not be given the right to privatize those enterprises, because those who are corrupted in supervising enterprises are going to be also corrupted in the process of their privatization. On the other hand, there is the other contradiction between privatization and rule of law, because both are supposed to fight corruption. Rule of law is there to fight corruption, and privatization is there to fight corruption. But in Kosovo, 14 years after the war, we do not have a law on privatization. So basically, privatization is illegal. But it is implemented very fast, very efficiently. On the other hand, in the field of rule of law, we have very good laws in general, in paper, but not much of implementation. So illegal privatization is very efficiently being implemented, while rule of law lacks implementation. There is this unfair competition between privatization and rule of law in fighting corruption, where privatization is winning over rule of law. Soon will be 6 years that Kosovo declared its independence, but it is more than double of this year, like more than 12 years, that we have privatization. When UNMIK arrived in Kosovo, like in Terra Nullius, like we discovered you, they said that you do not have status, your status is unresolved, that's why you cannot play football with this other country, that's why you cannot travel, that's why you cannot do this cultural event, but privatization we can do. So for conducting privatization, they never care that we do not have status. So again, the entire strategy for privatization was chrono strategy. When to do what? It was never a question whether they should do it or not. So by not thinking at all about privatization, privatization became the only way through which people were thinking. But I think that privatization is not really an idea. It represents rather the lack of ideas. When you do not know what to do with enterprises, you sell them. So it's not economic idea. It's a very expensive idea. It's so expensive that it's not an idea at all. It's rather an absence of ideas. When you do not know what to do with the wealth of the nation, then you sell it. There is a kind of pre-apocalyptic panic among Kosovar ministers and prime minister. as if Kosovo will be hit by some asteroid or tsunami. Therefore, we have to sell everything rather sooner than later. But precisely this approach, where you think that you should sell fast, is bringing the apocalypse, where you have the social misery and economic degradation. At the same time, I believe that privatization should have been, at best, part of socio-economic plan for development of the country, but not the starting point where development is eventually the consequence. So we are not, as a political movement, against privatization per se, but we are very much worried that the existing privatization is turning Kosovo into a country similar to the ones in Latin America 30 years ago. What happened in privatization of publicly owned enterprises is that we got nationalization of the losses and privatization of the profit, because the profitable parts of the enterprises were sold, and those who were operating with losses were left to the government to be subsidized by the budget of the state. Privatization kicked people out from politics and from the public sphere, because once you privatize public property, the citizens lose what they have in common, and you have a greater gap between political institutions and the citizens. So in a way, privatization is exclusive. The property and the enterprise belongs to somebody and to no one else. There is nothing to talk about. Others are excluded. More privatization you have, less discussion you get, less debate you get. Privatization did not bring liberalization of the market. Only public monopoly usually went into private hands. And when it comes to monopolies, I believe it's better to have public monopoly than private monopoly. It is interesting what they have done with KEK and PTK. They treated these corporations, very profitable, both of them, publicly owned, as Deleuze would say, body without organs. So they treated them as bodies which are sick, but you cannot locate a single organ in that body which is sick. Corruption is widespread, is deep, is everywhere. Therefore, you have to sell this corporation. So they never allowed us to distinguish certain organs within the body that should be healed separately. But once privatization started, what they were doing is that they were actually privatizing only the healthy organs of the corporations, which was described as body without organs. So retroactively, we understood that actually this body had organs. But through privatization, they turned it into organs without a body, if I may say so. They destroyed the corporation, and then they took only the good organs. So it is typical situation of transplantation of organs, organ transplanting, because you kill the enterprise and then you get the organs. So privatization in Kosovo considered enterprises not as capacities for development, not as organization of workers, but only as dead assets. So in a way, once you approach from the viewpoint of privatization to publicly owned enterprise, you have to kill it first, before you do anything. This very approach kills the enterprise. And I think that paradoxically, privatization considered that this is body without organs, but only through privatization we became aware that actually there are organs, there are some sick organs, but what they did is took the good ones. In a way, 14 years after the war, we have this paradigm of stability, which is also stability for the sake of privatization. In a way, stability of the patient in the surgery room while the doctors take the organs, and after stabilization with anesthesia or morphine, of course, if I may say so, the hand of the doctor remains hidden hand of the doctor. So the transfer of economic relations in Kosovo from socialism to capitalism, in the name of negation of socialism, they negated all other variants inside capitalism but neoliberal one. And I think that this shift from socialism to capitalism did not actually have as a consequence capitalism, but rather feudalism. Of course, we all have laptops and iPads and cameras now, and technological advancing is masking the real economic relations on the ground. For example, we have so many features of feudalism. We do not have industry, nepotism is blooming, illiteracy is increasing, there is each day less cash money, and the exchange goods with goods between businesses is increasing as well. 78% of the budget is collected at the borders. So state of Kosovo, paradoxically, is dependent from what it is killing it. Like a drug addict. You need drugs, but at the same time it's killing you. So we are dependent upon imports, but imports are killing our farmers. Because 78% of the budget is collected at the borders from the import. Then the main category becomes ethnicity, not anymore nation state. And the capital town, Pristina, has increased not as a result of industrialization, but bureaucracy, and with government offices, administrative, and also those of empires. We have less water and electricity in public system, and we have more wells and private generators for electric energy. Culture is not used to define political unit, but rather to maintain hierarchical distinction rural-urban. Provincialism of political parties and their leaders is increasing. We have so many feudalistic businessmen who are owners of lands, nearby highways, airport, or where we will find soon mines. And a great part of the manufacture of the country, which is very little anyway, is not done for the market as in capitalism, but for people's usage there, as it happens in feudalism. And at the top of this, we have two queens, because in UK you have one queen. We have the Republic of Kosovo has two queens. It's not a monarchy, but it has two queens. It's Baroness Ashton from Brussels and the American ambassador, Madame Jacobson. So I believe that the causes of problems we have in Kosovo are socioeconomic, and the consequences of are cultural rather than the other way around. Therefore, I do not think that corruption is culture. I think corruption is a system. And we have been told very often in Kosovo that, oh, you Albanian people are lazy, that's why you don't find jobs there. But I haven't seen any German businessman or Swiss businessman or British businessman complaining that Albanians are lazy. Only they complain that in Kosovo Albanians are lazy. Of course they are lazy because they have no jobs. And you know, people who have no jobs, they look lazy. That doesn't mean that they are lazy. And one journalist asked me, but why there are no protests in Kosovo for 1st of May, for example. And I said, yeah, Albanians of Kosovo and others, they do protest for the 1st of May. But they do it in London, Berlin, Paris, because our working class is there. It's not in Christina. So we have this, and we have there this subculture of macchiatos there. So you work here in London and in other capitals of the West. You work here without break, and we maintain your coffee break there through the remittances that you send to us. I think that one of the greatest problems that lies at the core of this grave economic situation is that democracy by international protector has been limited to anti-communism. So when you limit democracy to anti-communism, that is a highway for neoliberalism. And I think that, yes, we can have free market economy, but what we get in Kosovo is freedom of the market, which becomes market domination over institutions. In 1999, prior to getting political liberty, we got economic liberalism. So we should have gotten first political liberty, self-determination, state, sovereignty, and then after you do the liberalism. With the opening of the market of Kosovo, we didn't get the salaries of EU, but only the prices of EU. Of course, I recognize that trade, finances, and services are important branches of the economy, but manufacture is even more so. The only economic project of our government at present is visa liberalization. So they don't know how to increase our economy, but they have this idea of decreasing population. The economic growth in Kosovo is neither inclusive nor sustainable. It is based on import remittances and government expenditure. The government in Kosovo does not like local producers, manufacturers, because it's connected very much with those who import products, and they are the richest people in the country. Infrastructure, which is being built all over now with Bektelenka, this American-Turkish corporation, very expensive highways, 3 times more expensive than market prices. We're promised market economy. We're supposed to get market prices, right? But then we got these contracts with very expensive with Bechtel. And all these highways, they can at best be carriers of economic development. But energy and infrastructure they do not represent economic development per se. One important issue is the education system in all this, because we have been told that, you know what, all of you go into universities, equip yourself with diplomas, and then you will be attractive for foreign investment. Okay, you have universities in Kosovo like mushrooms, you know, everybody has a diploma now, and but foreign investment did not arrive. But you know what we got? We got brain drain, the best left. So in the life of an individual, education and employment, I guess, must be in diachronic relation. First you do high school and university, and then you get a job, for example. But in the life of society, it must be in synchronic relation. Employment and education must go hand in hand. If you think that we are going to do for some years education, and then you are going to get employment, I think that is not going to happen. And Kosovo's case illustrates this best. We have been told that we need small and medium enterprises. This destroyed the unions altogether. And at the same time, small and medium enterprises were not established as complementary with industry, but at the same time, but rather as substitution of it. Even according to the liberal magazines like The Economist, for example, 1/3 of the manufacturing enterprises in Greece have less than 10 employees, comparing with 4.3% in Germany. In Germany, from all the manufacturing enterprises, 55% have more than 250 employees. In Portugal, it's 19%. In Kosovo, 0.8%. 96% of 60,000 enterprises we have there have one-digit number of employees. 80% of enterprises have one employee, who happens to be the employer, the cleaning person, the financial officer, the manager, everything. It's a one-man shop. So basically, we propose a different economic model. We know very well that capitalism is not neutral. Therefore, we need state intervention. But not state intervention to control the economy, but state intervention to orient and not to be a spectator. State is an economic actor. And I think that in the 21st century, the importance of the state will grow. It's not going to decrease. So we advocate for the model of developmental state, where simply government will not be like today, administration of corporations like Bechtel and Enka and Limak and Chalik, who took over our budget and publicly owned enterprises. But on the contrary, we are going to subsidize manufactured production. Of course, we cannot produce anytime soon flat TV screens, but we shall not import any more garlic from China, onion from Egypt, chickens from Brazil, and pumpkin seeds from Turkey. This is what happens today. Our grandfathers, who were totally illiterate, they produced these things. Now, in 21st century, we're not producing. Also, we think that it is very important that developmental state puts market at the service of economy and economy at the service of society, and not the other way around. We need both developmental state and social state. We advocate for progressive taxation. At present, Kosovo has flat VAT, 16%, milk for children, and whiskey Chivas Regal, 16% the same. And we would change this. VAT 0 for bread, milk, cooking oil, sugar, books, salt, and these elementary things. And 20% for luxury things, for example. Then in Kosovo we have corporate tax is 10%. We would make this 30%. All those who earn more than 10 times more than the minimum wage, which is 170 euros. So those who earn more than 1,700 euros, they would pay 30% tax. And we do not have any Gérard Depardieu who would leave the country. They already left if we had them. We think that it is very important that we do decolonization before privatization, because as long as we sell our enterprises without decolonization, Serbia has quite some chance to get some money from the privatization fund, but also we could end up in endless processes in different international courts. First Republic of Kosovo, which was declared on 2nd of July 1990, was Republic for Resistance. Second Republic of Kosovo, which was declared on 17th of February 2008, was a Republic for Privatization. So I believe that what we need in Kosovo, with developmental state and sovereignty, is Third Republic. We need this Third Republic, which implies radical transformation of the state. And this Third Republic would very much help local farmers, local industry, especially energy, mining, light industry, food industry, because at the same time we believe that there is a coherence between republic and manufacture production, because consumption individualizes and production collectivizes. It is the manufacture which brings people together. Because in order to produce this wine, all of us have to get together. And maybe we need more people. But like this, each one of us is consuming individually. So this Republic for Privatization turned citizens of Kosovo like in human beings who have mouth and consume but without hands. So actually, Third Republic of Kosovo, which will be pushing for sovereignty and economic development based on manufacture, will give hands to people. Thank you.